Let's get going. Thanks everybody for, actually, I guess a few people came up, but isn't it great to have Zoom on a day like today?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just driving over here. Yes, it is good to have Zoom.
It is good to have Zoom on a day like today, yes. So I'd like to start by just getting to know everybody. My name is Mary Hartman. I'm on the select board. I'm the select board member who wrote the charge for this committee. I'm going to be your facilitator today, but I am not a member of this task force. I don't have a vote. I can be here if you need anything from the select board. I'm your conduit to the select board, but I'll be doing talking today, but then I hope to really fade in the background and just be there if you need me. So first order of business is I need someone to volunteer to take minutes for this meeting. So do I have a volunteer for minutes for today?
I'll do minutes, but will I be able to get this Zoom recording?
Who is recording it? I think Eileen is recording this. I noticed when I logged in.
I saw it recorded.
It said you're being recorded, so I
It
Yeah,
did.
that's
So it,
okay.
yes, there's Steve.
Okay.
There's Steve. Great. Okay, good. The first thing I need to do is I need to confirm, well, let's go around and do introductions. I did myself, so I'm just going to go by how I see people on the screen. There's no hierarchy here. It's just how people logged in. So Laura, do you want to go first, please?
Sure. Hi, my name is Laura Scott, and I'm currently the Power Supply and Rates Administrator for the Municipal Light Plant.
Great. Wendy?
Hi, I'm Wendy Ravelli. I am recently retired, but a recent member of the Concord Light Board. So there's my background on this topic.
And the Finance Committee. Right?
And the Finance Committee, yeah, that too.
Great, good. Charlie?
Hi, I'm Charlie Parker. I'm currently a member of the Building Committee for Concord, and I am a former member of the Sustainable Energy Committee and a chair of that committee going back to sort of the early days, I should say. I think that pretty much does it.
Thank you. Dean?
Dean Banfield. My community service includes 5 years on the Natural Resources Commission, 6 years on the Finance Committee, on one of which the 2020 COVID year, I was the chair. That was a fun time. And so this is an effort that I've been sort of spearheading to get this thing pulled together. So,
Thank you. Gavin, morning.
Morning. Let me know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Not
okay?
hardly. I can hardly hear you.
Awesome. Okay. We're just going to pass the main computer then. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. My name is Gavin Colbert. I'm a representative of the Climate Action Committee on this task force, and I graduated from Dartmouth College last spring with a public policy and environmental policy major. And I currently work for Avangrid, a renewable energy company, doing some of the offshore wind off the coast of Massachusetts. So I'm excited to get on this task force.
Great. Welcome. Stephen.
Hi there, Steve Newbold, former chair of the Historic Commission, Historic District Commission. And I'm an architect with Gensler Architects, do a lot of large projects and been in the town since birth. So I'm your historic member.
Thank you. Eric. Eric, are you with us?
his tile seems to have, is he still here? Oh, he's there. He's
He is
black.
there.
He's black.
Let's go by Eric for now. I'll come back. Phil.
Phil, you're on mute.
Yep, we lost.
Yeah, nope, he
There
There you
popped
go. You're off.
up.
There you go. Morning.
Good morning. This is my first opportunity to serve the town, as you just figured it out. And I'm an engineer by training and founded 3 high technology companies in Massachusetts and ran a 4th company for the last 25 years. And this to me is an exciting opportunity to do something that the town needs.
Thank you. Let's go back to Eric. Eric, are you with us?
He's in an interesting state. He doesn't have his name displayed.
I know, it's just a blank thing. Okay, that's okay. If I see some action on his tile, I will,
Yeah,
I'll interrupt and let Eric introduce himself. He's our Director of Sustainability, town staff, so. The next thing on our agenda would be to actually make sure that everyone here has gone in and been sworn in at the town clerk's office. If you haven't, do that in short order, because that's an important part of participating. The next thing I'd like to do is review the charge. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about the charge? This was like I said earlier, I authored this, but it was vetted by the entire select board and it was approved unanimously. So I'm hoping that everybody is okay with this and that this will be our outline for the work that you do going forward.
Before the
Mary,
meeting,
do you need to take roll before we get too far into the meeting?
Yes.
Formally open the meeting?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you. Okay, so Mary Hartman, I'm formally opening this meeting now at 8:10, and I'll go around and do a roll call. Laura Scott,
Here.
myself, Mary Hartman here, Wendy,
Here?
Charlie,
Here?
Dean,
here.
Gavin,
Here.
Stephen,
Here.
Phil,
Yeah,
Eric.
I'm here. Sorry about that. Was having some audio issues. Apologies.
Great. Eric, do you want to take a minute and introduce yourself to the group?
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. I'm Eric Sims, the Sustainability Director for the town. Apologies for the technical difficulties. And also if I was intending to be there at the townhouse this morning, but had some issues with summer camp cancellation for kids. So some logistical issues. But anyway, I'm glad to be a part of this group and looking forward to see what kind of work we can get done.
Thanks, Eric. Okay, we're talking about the charge, and I just want to make sure before we
You
get
everybody
going.
in the roll call? I guess.
sorry?
You got everybody on the roll call?
I did.
Okay, all right.
I did. Other people are part of
Yeah.
the public.
Yep.
They'll get a chance to speak later. I did. Okay, so review the charge. Anybody have any questions, comments about the charge?
yes, Phil. It's a good start. I assume it's going to be our job to set reasonably ambitious quantitative goals and times. And that's going to be an important part of our work.
I would agree with that. Anybody else have a comment?
The one comment, and we were just discussing it briefly here in the select board room before the meeting started, is that in the charge, there's a request to get, a starter project, aggressively up and running, or, get it going. And it's August, and if we want to get anything on the warrant, we need to run. We are going to have to really make a good effort to get something on the warrant so that we can show progress, because otherwise another year will go by with no progress. So that's just a comment that I have here. That we have our work cut out for us if we're going to satisfy that piece of the charge, which is the project that shows the town we're making progress.
Okay, let me think about that. Let me say that I think the warrant closes on January 2nd or 3rd, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying that is somehow a deadline that you would have to meet in order to get something up and running quickly to meet that requirement, or that's
Yes, the presumption is that some amount of money would
Mhm.
be needed
Yes.
to be appropriated in order to build anything.
Right.
So that would require something on the warrant. So
Yep, you're
not a
right.
not a lot of months for us to do work, find a site, get a design, get going. I mean, I think that's aggressive, and that's all I'm saying. I'm happy to work at it. And I would love to be able to meet that goal. but it will take a good effort by the group to get that done.
What do other people think?
So I had the same concern. And I don't know if it's possible to get something designed, Dean, but I definitely felt like we needed to get a placeholder on the warrant by a couple more months, but we have a lot of work to do, which speaks to how often we probably need to meet.
Yeah.
Well, I think you have to define what the progress is that you're trying to demonstrate. If you were, if you've found a site and you want to progress the work, you can find a site, you can start talking to town committees, you can get a design or a firm, initial concept moving that you could then find a budget for. And there may be other ways of defining progress than building something right out of the get-go. In essence, you're going to still need to do a lot of work in advance. And if you show progress in that work, are you showing the progress that the charter is asking for?
I would say.
I guess that's for us to kind of decide and discuss further, right? So.
Yeah, I was just gonna second that and say that I really like the aggressive timeline, but I want to make sure that we also don't sacrifice longer term planning for a quick short term success, if that makes sense.
There's a possible low-hanging fruit opportunity, I think. The town has already committed to itself in our schools to provide sheltered parking with rooftop solar. And so the data is available. We've had some experience, and that could be expanded to other either town-owned parking lots or other schools. The ground has already been broken. So that's a possible candidate for your low-hanging fruit.
I believe that, yeah, I think that's what we're looking for this pilot project. But I believe last year, Laura, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but CMLP brought forward an article when the warrant closed for the solar on the Concord Middle School.
Yeah.
And when the warrant closed, they had a very high price tag for what they thought it would cost. And then by the time town meeting happened in late April, that cost had come down quite a bit. So I guess the learning there is if you go in at the warrant with a very high number, you can always go lower. But at least you've got a place in line, and you've got it on the warrant for town meeting. So I guess that might be the strategy that you want to do.
Well, we were just talking about, does everybody agree with the charge? Are there any comments on the charge? And it was just that this piece of
That's good. Thank you.
That a pilot up is going to be a challenge for us because of where we are right now and the date that we're at. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good point. Good point. Anything else we need to talk about with the charge?
Mary, I had one question, and it was about voting and just tiebreakers, right? Because we have 5 citizens and 3 staff quasi-town representatives. So that's 8, which makes it even. And so is there some rule we need to apply if there are 8 voting members and we need a tiebreaker?
I know.
I thought that was addressed. Let me read it.
Well, I don't know if it was. In your earlier version it was, and it was the chair. But in this latest version, I'm not sure it was.
How about we circle back to that after we've
Okay,
elected a
that's fine.
chair? Is that
Yeah, no, it's fine.
great? Good. That's good. That's a good point. Let's hope we don't have any squeaker.
Yeah, I
kind of
just,
things.
yeah, it was
But,
raised
okay.
before. Yep.
That's good. That's good. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, great. I have a I have a bullet here on our agenda to review prior studies, and that's a tall order because there's a lot of different. So I thought today what we might do is I asked Laura if she would give us just a brief synopsis of the draft report that CMLP is writing now, and I think the executive summary might be a good way to ground us on some of the work that's been done and some of the conclusions that CMLP at least has come to regarding moving forward. So Laura, are you okay with doing that?
Yes, thank you, Mary. So I will attack this at a really high level. So from our perspective, my hope is that rather than start in the middle of things and build a project right off the bat, I would love it if we could step back a little bit and first re-verify or reconfirm the idea that we actually want to do this in Concord. There are benefits associated with locating renewable generation locally, and there are some costs. And so it would be nice if the group could view those different elements and say, yes, it does make sense for us to do X, Y, and Z, or no, it doesn't. We should achieve our renewable energy goals in another manner. So for me, that's kind of the first question is, should we do it? The next question is, if we say, yes, we should do it, a lot of focus has been spent on where we should do it. And previous town meetings as far back as 2010 actually authorized the construction of solar panels on various town-owned properties, only to find out once they had been bid out to third-party developers and getting ready to put a shovel in the ground, citizens come raise up and say, absolutely not. I don't want this in my backyard. I don't like the look of it. If it's a ground mount, it interferes with wildlife, recreation, threatened species, any number of concerns that people had about locating the generation locally. And so lately there's been a focus on not focusing on ground mounted solar arrays, but rather placing the solar panels on rooftops and parking canopies. From what we can tell and what we've been told by experts, that is a more costly venture than building ground-mounted arrays. And so again, a value judgment needs to be made maybe by this committee and by the wider community on whether that cost benefit is worth it. And finally, even if all the stars align and we find good property and we decide it's a good cost benefit investment, there are technical impediments on the CMLP system where even today we simply cannot absorb more locally generated solar during certain hours of the year. And more money would need to be spent for us to overcome those technical barriers. So there's a lot of cost associated with building generation locally. And I think the town needs to, recommit or say, yes, all the benefits we think that local generation provides are worth it, that we're willing to spend this extra money to do that. So those are kind of the high level issues. And of course, lots of other issues follow from that.
I'm puzzled. I thought the whole purpose of creating this committee was to explore and see what could be done in an affordable manner. So if we start out by saying, without even looking, that it's not affordable, why do we have the committee in the first place?
Well, I understood based on the charter that there is there's a bullet item that says review and reevaluate the climate action plan solar goal to recommit or modify.
Again, until we have actual data and specific ideas, it sounds to me like it's highly theoretical. I'm not sure that it makes much sense to me, at least. We have to look at what the best can be done and then evaluate if it's good enough. And then if it is, in our opinion, asking the town if it's good enough. But to have an opinion on whether something is practical and affordable without even looking, I don't understand.
So I think some of that speaks to Laura's coming from a lot of experience and background and is more fluent in some of the historical studies. So that's part of the committee's work, is to re-review what's been done, look at the most recent data that we have. And these are just facts that Laura's sharing in terms of the cost. I think one question I had, Laura, in terms of that was your reference to the technical limitations. Now, I know that regardless of solar, new solar, the light plant has a concern over the capacity and the minimal, you put this in your report, but I'd be interested in hearing what the light plant's current strategy is on addressing some of the concerns about increased solar. And I know this gets to the two sides of town and the technologies that we have, but we as a group should understand what that limitation is and what plans the light plant has to try to address it. I know the light plant wanted to consider the technology that would allow us to move electricity back onto the grid. And I know that's a large endeavor, but something that the light board had actually discussed, and that might eliminate some of that limitation on solar, but obviously it's an investment the light plant needs to consider. And maybe not for today, but maybe something this group needs to get more apprised about.
Which brings up again and again the issue of financing. And if you read the material from the national that we've received, financing is something that is not necessarily requiring town money. And we have to explore what opportunities there are in terms of financing, because that's always a limiting factor.
I think the committee is sort of we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves here a little bit to get into the weeds here. I think what Mary was looking for on this agenda item was just sort of like the backdrop of the work we will be doing. So I think we've touched on some of the points that are going to require investigation, both financial, but also the technical. And probably we need to get the committee, housekeeping items taken care of before we dive into real work. I mean, that's kind of my sense of where we are right now in terms of the committee's work.
Good. I like the energy of wanting to get into the actual work. And thank you. Thank you for grounding us, Laura, as far as some of the challenges that we've faced and some of the conflicting things that you all have to deal with. Let's go right into the housekeeping items. Choose meeting times and frequencies. Does this time of day work for most people?
It does, except for today, Tuesdays. Tuesdays don't work for me, sadly. So otherwise, this time of day is fine for me.
I would say it depends on how long we want the meetings to be, but it could be helpful to have more than an hour meeting. If people can survive more than an hour meeting, it might be helpful to have more than just an hour, and having it in the morning is a bit limiting. If we want to think about doing it in the early evening, like many of the other committees, so we could have 2-hour meetings, or unless we want to all get up earlier. But I think that could be helpful. It seems like we're going to have a lot of debate and a lot of planning to do. So for me, I think the evenings would work better for the group, but we can vote about it.
I would like to agree with that point. I don't see that quick 1-hour meetings, a bunch of them are going to get us anywhere. Well, they'll get us somewhere, but I think it would be a struggle. I think we do need to have the time to really develop some concepts, really toss them around, have good freewheeling discussion, and emotions where necessary. I just think again, morning is tough. I think the evening is probably better. It can be a little bit more open-ended.
I don't have strong feelings. I do think that we need more than an hour meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great comment.
When people have to get to work, then you have a problem.
Right. Because
people are leaving, they're trying to do a little bit of business when they have to during the meeting and so forth. This is going to be a struggle because of the time frame.
Good point.
I myself do prefer the mornings and would be willing to start at 7 or earlier if people wanted to, try to get off to work. Evenings are a little bit more challenging because I have a family and commitments, but I will make it work. So just my 2 cents.
There's another fact here that we ought to consider. It's the public. Starting meetings at 7 in the morning is not the best way to allow public dialogue. I think my experience with the building committee was such that, it wasn't a real comfortable time for a lot of people to get on. Just a couple of comments.
Does having early evening meetings exclude anyone? I know, Laura, I heard you saying that it was hard for you, but you would make it work. Does early evening exclude anyone on this task force?
No, not me.
Okay,
No.
so I guess I'm hearing that early evening would be best and longer meetings. I guess I'm hearing 2 hours.
It
Probably.
seems reasonable that a good chunk of time be allocated, and because
Okay.
there are some meaty issues that we have to work through.
Okay, then let me ask this, are there any days that won't work for people for an early evening 2-hour meeting? Any days of the week? That's good. I'm not hearing anything. That's good. How often do you think you need to meet?
My take on this is if we want to get anything done this year, every 2 weeks. I mean, I feel as though this has been dragging. 2 weeks is probably a good schedule. It doesn't really need to, I mean, once a week would be insane, but I would do once a week. I would be happy to do it, but I think that's a lot to ask of a town committee.
I'd agree that
Would-
biweekly makes sense, whether it's biweekly or it's every 2 months, the first and the third of each month, you can
Something-
decide.
Yeah, something like that.
I would agree with that. I would agree with the 2 meetings
Yeah.
per month or every other week.
Anybody have a constraint that it won't work for them? You don't have to go to every meeting. Be better if you did, but.
As
we
long as
all-
you get a quorum. The quorum is, and just back to Wendy's point about voting and membership and everything else, the charge reads 5 citizen members. And that's all. So there's never a tiebreaker problem, but we will always need a quorum of 3.
Right, you will.
But the voting members, so help me out with that. The voting members included the other participants. So
The other participants are active participants, but not voting members. So the 2 staff members, which are Laura, who's the director's assignee, and Eric, who's the sustainability director, are active participants in the group, but do not have a vote. It's per the charge. So
but it says all participants will be voting members. So I actually think Mary should take this offline and we need to get clarity on it. I agree. If it was just 5. it'd be easy.
Actually, I think you might be looking at a different
The June 26th,
version.
that's the approved June
Yeah, I'm
26th.
looking at that too.
The last paragraph, the second sentence.
I'm looking at the one that was sent out moments ago by Eileen, so maybe I'm looking at the wrong one. June 26th, approved. What does it say?
So look at other considerations.
You're right. You're right. Okay, I think this is out of date. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is a little housekeeping thing that I'm almost sure that the select board voted that the 2 staff members, Laura and Eric, would not be voting because according to the town manager, it's really not appropriate to put that pressure on staff. It's more appropriate that the town residents have voting. So I owe everybody an updated copy of the charge, and I will get that out to you today. And I think that clears that up. So back to
Yeah,
Dean's
good.
point, there are 5 members, citizens of Concord, and that avoids the issue that you were talking about earlier, Wendy, of having tie votes.
Well,
Yep.
you
5
don't have a
voting
tie vote if you have 5 members and 2.
One's absent, I know.
staff members,
yeah.
you still have 7, so it's never going to be a tie vote problem.
But the
Okay.
quorum is equally important, Dean, right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry
So-
about that. Okay, let's get
Whatever.
back to the agenda. So I think we decided that you're going to meet in the early evenings twice a month, the 1st and 3rd. What day of the week?
Friday would be hard.
I'm
Which
sorry.
day?
Friday would be hard.
Yeah,
Friday.
it's not Friday.
It's not Friday.
It's a
How about
given.
Thursday?
Thursday evening was probably fine.
Thursday's fine.
Very good. Okay. The first and third Thursday of the month, early evening. We'll schedule it for 2 hours. And do you want to keep these virtual, or do you want to have hybrid, or do you want to have in person?
I
Hybrid.
think it's helpful to be in person if we can,
Yeah,
but
Exactly.
it's really good to be able to talk to people around a table. I mean,
Yeah.
it's nice to be able to join the community in, but it's really good to be able to get together. So if we could just have them be in person. I think,
Yeah.
My only worry is for quorum that we might not have everyone hybrid.
I think that having the option for, someone to join remotely is good, but I think we should meet in person. These discussions are too difficult to have via Zoom. They're too complicated. We may need a whiteboard and so forth and so on. The in-person strategy is the right strategy for this content.
Yeah, option for those people who can't make it.
Right.
To do remotely as a backup is probably a good thing, but should be kept to a minimum.
That's exactly the way I would say it. Perfect.
yep.
Okay. Okay, so then I will work with the town staff to get the hybrid setup, realizing that you'd want in person, and we'll try to get, we will get a room.
okay.
Laura, is there anything available at CMLP at that time of day? That would be an appropriate room?
Yeah, I should think that we could get, let's see, how many people are there likely to be? Just-
7 or 8. Well, no, that doesn't include public comment. Let's say 10 to 15.
So would we need to be able to
Sure.
accommodate the public?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think, we'd have to check to make sure there aren't other groups or committees that also want our public meeting room, but the public meeting room certainly would accommodate, a group of 5 members up at the table, and then room for members of the public to sit, and view the discussions.
Okay, good. So you and I will connect.
Possible backup, the new space at the public library is really excellent. That's-
What are you talking about? The Goodwin room?
I've forgotten the name, but there's a beautiful space as a result of the expansion. And this is certainly of public interest.
Okay.
That's a private, the library,
Yeah.
private entity. I'm not sure that's really the right move. I mean, it's a town function, and the library is an arm's length thing. I know there's operational funding, but it's run by the capital. The whole building is owned by the library corporation. I don't think that's really, we should be holding town meetings in that building, I don't think.
We'll find a room.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
That's something that I will take as an action item. I'll find a room. Great.
Yeah,
I think it's time to choose a chairperson.
So, Mary, just to clarify, when
Yes.
would we start this cycle of every 2 weeks?
Let me see.
So
I'm
2
just
weeks from now?
I don't have my calendar. What is the date for the third Thursday of this month?
17.
17? I don't have my calendar up.
I don't,
I can't put my calendar up with my,
I can't either.
maybe I can. Let me see.
It's the 17th.
Gavin says the
17th.
17th because he has.
Great,
his-
thank you, Gavin.
Yes, it is.
Okay, then our
Right.
first meeting, then your first meeting will be August 17th. That will be your next meeting. Does that sound good?
That's fine.
Great.
Yep.
I don't know if I can
Fine.
make that meeting, just saying. I'll try. I'm gonna be someplace in New Hampshire, and I don't know if they have internet, but I will try.
I'm going to be in Maine. I know I do have internet, so that
Okay.
is possible for me to do remotely, but I'm not coming down for a local meeting for that. So,
That's why we're doing virtual.
yes,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so the next meeting will be August 17th. It will be virtual. We'll put together where the room will be, and we'll get the technology working. That's our
As
job.
time, can we allow late enough so that people can grab a bite rather than starve?
Okay, Phil, suggest the time.
Either 7:30 or 8, any of these times.
7 is fine with me. That's fine.
Okay,
Are you
6:30.
talking about a start time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's no way that I can sit through a 7 to 9 PM meeting. I go to bed at 8 o'clock. I get up very early and I wouldn't be able to do it.
Well, we need you there. We need you,
I don't know.
we need you functional.
I was
So-
thinking like maybe 5 to 7, right? And then
Well,
you
you
can.
could come to work later on Thursday and get a little
Well,
extra rest in the
well,
morning.
Yeah, but the body clock doesn't really shift on a 1-day basis.
How about 6:30?
That's fine with me.
I'm with me.
It's fine here in the room, in our. room.
Good.
6:30 to 8:30. And Phil, you can grab something to eat before that.
Sounds good.
Okay,
We'll get takeout for you, Phil. It's okay.
okay. Now we get to choose a chairperson.
So I'd like to make some comments about Dean. Dean provided the leadership on the two articles for the town, shepherded all that, through various reviews, committees, and so forth, and has done a significant amount of research on this, and has really been the overall champion. I think Dean also has the leadership capabilities for managing these committees, as he's been the chair of the finance committee during a difficult time. So, I'd like to put Dean's name forward. I think he is quite deserving of this function and is quite invested in getting a positive result for the town in terms of getting things done. So I think that's all to our benefit if we were to pick Dean.
So I would second that comment. Dean has definitely championed this topic for a while.
Very kind comments, Charlie. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any comments?
Outside of supporting it, no?
I think we need a motion.
So I move that we select Dean Banfield as chair of the Solar Task Force.
Second,
Second,
I'll have to take a roll call vote. Wendy Ravelli,
yes.
Charlie Parker,
Yes.
Dean Banfield,
I'll abstain.
Phil Villers,
yes.
Stephen,
Yes.
Gavin.
Yes.
Great. Okay, very good. It's unanimous. So Dean, you
Thank
want to
you,
take over?
everyone.
Wait, someone's, oh, Laura, never mind. Laura's just getting her video back.
Dean, you want to take over? You're the chair.
Sure. What's left of the agenda? So.
Determine how minutes will be taken.
Okay, so I think we don't really have the kind of staff support, so it's going to be on us to produce minutes. One question about this whole virtual concept, are we, as long as we have recorded meetings, people can go back and they won't have to make, furious notes during meetings, because it's hard for anyone to be keeping track and at the same time actively participating. So I think the only way to do this is just to have it done on a rotating basis. Everybody takes, next man up kind of thing. And it's my turn or whatever. We'll just assign it out. I'll create a rotation and people will be assigned. If they are not able to make a meeting with their assigned moment, we'll have to juggle it, and I'll have to be apprised in advance that they won't be able to do it, and we'll get another person, and we'll just move the ladder, and the next person will take over. So I think that's the only way to do it, is to have us just rotate through and each of us take our turn.
Agreed.
Got any objection to that? No? Okay.
No.
Happy with that?
Yeah, okay. So that's the minutes. We will, my suggestion, and I'm happy to take a vote, I'm happy to hear a recommended vote on this, but my suggestion on public comment is at the end of the meeting. That tends to be the way other meetings are handled. These are business meetings where the committee members will be actively discussing things on which I'm sure the public has strong views. We can also consider having comments before the meeting starts, but I'm not really that interested in having our meetings turn into a dialogue with the community in real time. We need to be able to make decisions. We need to be able to discuss and debate things among committee members. And so either we put it at the beginning of the meeting, which is the practice that has been adopted at the school committee, or we put it at the end of the meeting, which is a practice that has been adopted by many committees. Yes.
The select board has a new policy this year where they have public comment at the beginning of the meetings. It's limited to 15 minutes and it's restricted to things that aren't on the agenda. And then during the meeting, if the chair decides that there's something that they're going to vote on, they might elect to welcome public comment if they're ready to take a vote. So, and that seems to be that was adopted by the planning board as well. So it's kind of a new way of approaching public comment. So far it's working, and I just thought I'd throw it out there as something you might consider.
I think there's a compelling reason for having it at the end, is that will mean that a lot of the public comments will be related to what we are considering, which makes it very relevant rather than guessing.
When you say at the end, Phil, what do you mean by
The last item on the agenda.
the knock on that is that the public, like if we are actively taking actions of any kind and we're discussing something, a motion might be on the table, we're in the discussion, and then we're moving toward taking action. When we take action, the action is done, and then the public comment is at the end of the meeting. They aren't able to weigh in order to sway the direction. So that's sort of the knock on it. And if it's on the agenda, the school committee practice has been to accept public comment at the beginning of the meeting so that you know what's on the agenda, you see that there's a particular topic, you come, you weigh in, you give your ideas. Let me consider, Mary, the new approach. I'm open to it. I just don't want this to become like a free-flowing dialogue with the public. I really feel as though this committee has a lot in front of it, and for us to sort of tussle with these issues, we're going to need to have a box around ourselves so that we can do it.
I think you're right.
So,
And that to me is the concern, is if members of the public raise other sometimes extraneous issues, the temptation for the committee will be to deal with that to the exclusion of our agenda. So I see it, unlike the school committee where things have been known for a long time, we're going into new ground, and public comments at the beginning could be, I think, a serious distraction from our work.
I tend to agree that we ought to have the comments at the end of the meeting. I also tend to agree that the chair should have the prerogative to accept a request for a public comment. But I do believe it should be the intent of the committee to make those very, very rare. And I also think the committee, when it takes an important vote, should not make the motion and vote the same night when it's a significant work element. In other words, let it simmer for a week or 2 weeks. Give the public a chance to come back on it, and let it percolate a bit.
That's a very astute observation, Charlie, which is, and many committees do that as well, which is to open the discussion among committee members of something of importance, and then table it, or just say next time we come back, it will have just sat with the members. They can come back, there may be more discussion, and then a final action is taken in the second pass at it. That's certainly the case with school committee policy decisions when they're working through all the various policies that the school committee has to approve, is that they open the discussion, they sit with it for till the next meeting, and then they take action on the policy decision on the next meeting.
That's
So,
a compromise.
yeah,
Yep.
it can potentially slow things down. You can't take action same night, but I think it's especially for weighty items and things which do have, and some of these, some of the things we're going to be talking about are going to be impacting neighborhoods, individuals, people's sight lines, what they expect from the community, and they are going to want that interval to make their concerns known. So I think that that's a good suggestion, Charlie, is that we have that we take that approach with some of our meatier decision-making processes.
I think it's consistent also still with Mary's select board vote or select board position. Do you think so, Mary? Reasonably consistent.
It's reasonably consistent, yes.
That's all we need is reasonably
And
consistent.
you don't have
yeah.
to, and you don't have to be consistent at all. It's really up to you.
Yeah,
but
well,
it's
good.
certainly reasonably consistent, yes.
So I think for now, the way we'll approach this is public comment will generally be at the end. The chair will have the prerogative to open the discussion to the public if the chair believes that it's of significance and needs additional input. And we will endeavor, when decision-making is, we consider decision-making to be significantly impacting the community, that we discuss, and then we come back and take action in a secondary meeting. So there will be ample opportunity for the public to become aware of it, to weigh in on it, and for us to then come back and make a decision. So I think that's but we'll have to make, the chair, I suppose, will have to make the call as to whether a topic demands that kind of, waiting period, cooling off period, so to speak.
Mhm.
How did we do there? Pretty well, I think. Okay. So next steps for me, my suggestion on next steps is for us to sort of lay the groundwork. Laura started us off with the sense that we're working with a framework that has limitations. And I'd love us to spend the next meeting kind of learning, in depth about those limitations. One of the questions that I personally have is this sense that there are these two specific branches of our system. They're called bus bars. It's a very technical term, and it shows up in some of the stuff that Laura's written. And one is very at risk, but the other is not. And so I'd love to just understand what the geography that is served by those two areas is. That's something that I would think would be helpful for us to know. Because if there's a particular area of the town which is not so at risk, it may be of interest to us to focus on that area as a place to look for opportunities first. That's all. We still are going to have to, work with the technical limitations that we know exist, but it would be helpful for us to start with a baseline of where are opportunities available, where those risks are lower or less apparent. And that's just something I would like to see on the next agenda. I don't know what else would be a good place for us to start. It's just to understand, get a baseline of, what are we working?
Well, I got a question. I mean, could we get a packet of information, and could we all review that packet and all start with the same sort of level baseline based on our review of that information, and come in and make some comments on that? I think that there's some sense that we're starting with a clean sheet of paper, but at the same time we aren't, because there's a lot of history, there's a lot of studies that have been done, and so forth and so on. And coming back to some of Phil's earlier comments from the meeting, I think that we should not consider ourselves constrained on the one hand with respect to our approach here. On the other hand, we need to understand the history and the baseline. So I just hope that we could have some sort of packet and then comment on that packet and ask for the additional information that people feel they need to be informed participants I think Dean commented on one of those items, which is, you know, the bus bar, the geography behind each bus bar, where those bus bars are located and so forth. So, but I think we ought to take a clean shot across the whole committee, get everybody up to the same level.
That's very helpful. The idea of reinventing the wheel doesn't appeal to me at all.
So Charlie,
But
what
you
would
do, but you do
recommend that-
feel that we should be open to new ideas at the same time. So
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, so it's a tension between the two.
So Charlie, is it also fair that we should come back with questions on some of those historical documents?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes,
okay.
observations,
Yeah.
questions, I think, challenges and so forth.
Okay.
I think that we're not starting from
Right.
nothing. But we all need to see the same stuff and come back with comments about, so where are we and what do we need?
Right.
No, I've seen them.
And a key question, I'm sure, is why didn't they succeed? i.e. nothing happened. And that's very important to us.
I don't know how you're going to get an answer to that question, but.
Oh,
I
at
guess
least-
some of it goes back to your comment about limitations, because all of the historic reports identify limitations, and sometimes we need to take action on those, so that, to your point about baseline, understanding that. is
Well,
where
so
we
who
probably
can
look at
put that list of materials together?
Well, I think Laura disseminated it, right? So
We
there's,
have-
Okay.
Didn't receive it,
what?
did not receive it.
There, Laura sent all the committee
Yeah.
members an email with
Right.
probably 4 or 5 attachments, maybe,
Right.
which were a collection of prior studies that the town
Right.
has done. Have you seen those, Phil?
No,
Okay, then Charlie, have you seen those? That's a-
I recall seeing the email. I just want to make sure we
Yeah.
restart and make sure that whatever was sent is the right collection, and that it's complete, and that we all get off to the right start here.
But I think it is the right set of documents, Dean. Would you agree?
I would say
Yep.
that that's a pretty comprehensive look
Yep.
at the
Does
document.
it include the one that Laura referred to, the draft of
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Yep.
It
Yeah.
does,
And the
okay.
advice is to read that report, Laura, that report first, and then
Yeah.
all the supporting documentation behind it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in the email that
Yeah,
Laura,
there are five attachments.
And is that report in process, or is it complete?
well, that was the draft 1.0 or whatever the thing was. I've forgotten what that
Well,
was.
Laura, it's 2.0, but has the board reviewed that particular version?
There may have been some mild modifications to that, Wendy, since the board reviewed
Okay.
it, but I don't think they would be significant. The board, that
Yeah.
would be the version that the board did see.
But the board didn't discuss it as a next step, did they? I guess the
No.
point is the board saw it, but there wasn't active discussion on next steps related to it.
Other than the fact that this would be shared with this committee.
Yeah.
And then we would, see what transpired after that.
Yep.
So my sense is I will come up with an agenda that tries to tackle some of these things, and I may consult with you, Laura, to see if there's any further backup documentation that we need to kind of get ourselves situated in terms of understanding where we can or may potentially have issues, or where we may be able to cite new solar without generating new issues. That's kind of the thing that I think is the starting point for the committee, is just to sort of understand that base. I don't have anything further for the moment. We have 2 threads that I think we would like to try to pursue, and we may need to do these things in parallel. One is to try to poke at looking for a specific pilot site. And the other is to create the more long-range and more global design and plan for the wider distribution of multiple sites. But, you know, we may be able to find that these two things can be done sort of in parallel and always find themselves on the agenda. Where are we with the pilot and where are we with the larger problem? That we may need to be working on these two things together. That's kind of my sense of how this committee may shake out, at least between now and when the warrant closes, is that, you know, I don't think we should be singularly focused on a pilot. I think we should try to see if we can keep both things in tension, but, you know, in parallel, we have to be able to multitask here.
Yep.
Other than that, I don't have anything further to add for now.
I think you're on to the public comment section of your agenda.
I think we are. Okay. Public comment. Anybody wants to comment, raise your hand and we'll open the mic. Tanya.
Good morning. Hi, Tanya Gala, 62 Prescott Road. I have a couple housekeeping questions and then a couple comments. If we want to write to the committee, do we just send it to Dean?
That would probably be fine, Tanya. My email address, dean.banfield@gmail.com.
Okay. Will the video be available for public viewing, this one and others?
As far as I am aware, this is being recorded and anything that the town is recording should eventually show up on the Minuteman system.
I think you may need to ask them to do that, but anyway, that's great. And I wasn't sure if Gavin is or is not a voting member.
He is.
Yes,
That makes 6 members.
Right.
The liaison for climate action.
Oh, that's right. You're the liaison, right?
She's right.
Yep.
Tanya's right. Yeah,
Tanya's right.
It
So
is 6 members?
Yes.
6 voting members, yes.
Oh, okay, then the
Okay,
quorum is
you're
4.
voting- You're a voting member. Got it.
Then the
So,
quorum should be 4, I believe.
Yep.
Okay. So my comments are to ask you to please remember that when town meeting voted to go ahead with this committee and before that in 2022 to go ahead with this more solar generation, that there was a specification about preferring open sites and to have hearings for tree removals. In fact, Dean, you offered that change to that Article 38 in order, because you didn't necessarily want a discussion about an entire amendment. So I know it's the select board's prerogative to make this charge, but what town meeting voted had more specifications to it. So I will ask you to please keep that in mind. And also it's the idea of, even if it costs more, the idea of putting a canopy on a parking lot seems very worth the cost to me, because there are always hidden costs and things we don't completely understand about destroying natural resources. And so we go through a lot of expense in making sure everything that has to do with our schools, for example, is top notch and state of the art. And we should approach this endeavor with the same high goals about making it so that we have our cake and eat it too. We can have our solar generation and we preserve our natural resources with equal care. Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you, Tanya. Pamela Dritt.
Hi, Pamela Dritt, 13 Concord Green. Thank you. As open meeting law states, what I urge you to put a link to meeting documents on the website somewhere so that the public can get access to documents like the charge document, the packet, and Laura's reports. I'd very much be interested in that. And I'm sure other public attendees would too. And do you really want to make Laura stay up? Because you made the meeting time a half an hour past her bedtime already still. I don't think that's fair. We can always eat afterwards. And please consider that it isn't just solar panels that we're talking about. It's a electric generation system. And I hope that you will talk about battery integration, storage integration as well, since we need to have all of the electricity generated eventually here in Concord locally and very little bought in from elsewhere, because that will be when we have distributed power generated mostly locally. We have to do the infrastructure for that. The costs of building the infrastructure will be paid back over the life of them by the power, the clean power that we generate.
Thank you, Pamela. Mark Galis.
62 Prescott Road. Can you hear me okay?
Sure. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So I wanted to thank the task force members and especially the staff present. I just wanted to say that after reviewing some of those documents, especially the draft report from the light plan, I very much appreciate Ms. Scott's comments, and I think Dean referred to it, that on the high level, to the extent that this task force cares about actual costs, risks, and timing, to the extent that those are important factors, I think it's important to consider these issues of reverse power flow, splitting, storage control methods, transmission costs, alternative costs of out-of-town sourcing of solar, different contract types with some of the other power entities, changes in laws, incentives, et cetera. These all need to be present clearly in any cost comparison or analysis that the task force undertakes. Otherwise, I think we're kind of have blinders on. There's a danger of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Brian Folds.
Hi. Thank you all for doing this. I'm on the light board, and we weren't able to get to it and really focus on it. So it's appreciative that you are able to work on this. The things that I would stress is focus on citing or finding the locations for the solar arrays, the methodology for looking at every parcel in town. Don't exclude parcels in bulk, because I know there is not a lot of land that qualifies for these kinds of sites. Look for sites that may not be owned by the town, but that we could create a partnership with commercial properties or with other landowners in town, where we could site the type of solar we want at those locations, and also find sites for storage. And then once we kind of have an idea of where we want to put these things, how we want to, different business models for making them happen, then we can look at a lot of the distribution concerns, as well as the diminishing returns as we add solar, because it takes, we're trying to reduce the peak, and, solar reduces the peak with very little energy at first, but then as you get deeper and deeper into the peak, especially with storage, you need this low cost bulk storage, not something like lithium ion, to deal with the durations of 8 to 10 hours. So This is a complex topic. Thank you for working on it. But I would stress to prior to town meeting to focus on locating the sites in town, whether they be municipal or privately owned, and find ways to work with those owners. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Seeing that that's the end of the people looking to make public comments, I am looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and I think we have a motion. Oh, all in favor? I have to go around the room in this.
Yeah.
Scenario. Okay, Wendy,
Yes.
Charlie,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
who's left? Have I missed anybody?
You.
Me, yes, we're out. All done. Okay, thank you, everybody.
All right.
you.
Thank you all.